Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a fun but expensive card game. When a playset of lightning storms and other staples cost $100 a piece, how are you even supposed to afford it? Rather than taking the reckless sealed only route and relying on luck only, I'm going to be taking a much more practical approach. Using my knowledge of the market and just $10 a week, my goal is to climb the competitive ladder and eventually top a YCS or Nationals. This is Yu-Gi-Oh! On a Budget. Hey everybody, welcome to the first episode of Yu-Gi-Oh! On a Budget. So before we get started, I do want to lay down the general idea of this series, as well as extend my appreciation to RevzCards and Nyhmnim, who initially inspired the entire idea behind this series. So I'm basically going to be building a competitive deck from scratch, continuously buying new cards and updating my strategy every week. And I am allowed to buy singles, which may sound a little weird to those of you who are more familiar with sealed only that both Nyhmnim and RevzCards do. The reason I am doing this is because I find it more entertaining and effective to be on a tighter budget, because I think it is what most players have to deal with normally. So this is basically to help those newer players understand how to use a small amount of money effectively in their journey as a duelist. So due to the nature of this series, the first couple of episodes are going to be very challenging. It's going to force us to look at cards in a new light, and we may even have to take budget alternatives until we can save up enough money to afford generic staples. Also, due to the current pandemic, I'm most likely going to be just sticking to online simulators. This means that I will be looking for opponents to play against, so I'll be using the ranked ladder on Dueling Book, playing against my fiance in real life, and possibly against you. Which means this is a perfect time for me to advertise my Discord server. You should definitely join it if you want to be a part of my journey, not only because I host regular tournaments, but because it's a really amazing community. And most importantly for this series, if I'm ever looking for an opponent, I will post it in the matchmaking channel on Discord. It's a first come first serve, so if you are available, I will play against you. For this first episode, we have to start somewhere, so I've given myself a $50 budget. Each episode after this one will only be using the money saved from each previous episode, as well as the additional $10 allowance weekly. I do want to do this solely by myself, so I won't be borrowing or trading cards because that ultimately ruins the point of this series. So I'm just going to be sticking to buying sealed products as well as buying singles. So I've opted to use 3 copies of the Dynamaster structure deck to start this journey off because I think it's one of the cheapest competitive decks for us to use. Now don't get me wrong, there's still a lot of expensive cards on the topping list, such as 3 Permanents, 3 Lightning Storm, or 1 or 2 Archosaur, all of which are very expensive. And there's even other staples that are going to take us a long time to acquire. Ash Blossoms are at least $10 a piece, so it's going to take us at least 3 weeks to get a playset, and that's not even that expensive of a card. So I went to my Walmart and picked up 3 structure decks for $31.80, and then I went to a local card shop and picked up some sleeves for $8.48. This means that we have about $9.50, which will carry on into later episodes. With all that said, let's go ahead and crack open some structure decks. Let's do this. Alright, so here we have 3 copies of the Dynamaster's Fury structure deck. Yeah, let's I guess we'll just rip them open and get right into it. So, oh, that's a little strange. It just kind of fell out. Usually there's like a backing to this thing, but I guess it's just one little thing now. Let's just keep going. Let's rip all of these open. Might as well. Hopefully we pull like a misprint, but I don't think that we will. That's pretty unlikely. So we have a copy of Petite Pteranodon, Ultimate Conductor Tyranno, which is honestly going to be one of the best cards, probably the best card for the entire series, honestly. This will win us the majority of our games. A copy of Soul Eating Oviraptor, Lost World and Sorrow's End. Honestly, all 5 of these cards are extremely useful, so we're going to place those down. And for the rest of our deck, looks like we have a copy of Megalo Smasher X, Saber Source, a second Megalo Smasher X, in fact, two Saber Source, 2 Megalo Smasher X, which we're going to put these aside because I think for the first build, these are actually going to be pretty important. Next, the rest of these cards are not super great. A copy of Tyranno Infinity, which is something that could come in handy for the first couple of episodes, because you can banish 4 dinos to summon this from your deck, and it is a 4,000 attack beater, which is pretty good. We might end up playing a singular copy of this, or maybe siding them if we can't decide what else to play. Black Brachios is kind of a cool card, but it's not really that good. I'm going to put it off to the side because it is like an option, but I don't think that we'll play it. Gilosaurus, Baby Ceratosaurus, which is a very amazing card for this. In fact, we're going to be probably playing 3 copies of this, at least for the first part of this journey, but most likely we're going to be sticking to 2 or 3 copies for the entire series. Miscellaneousaurus, hopefully this doesn't get hit on a ban list. I know a lot of people are talking speculation on dinosaurs getting hit. I think this card might possibly go since it was limited in the past, unfortunately. Hopefully it won't get limited during our journey, but here's to hoping, I guess. Evil Swarm Salamandra. So this is a really cool thing that can be an out to certain things as well. Mostly just like large beat sticks, like, I don't know, like Denkosek or something, I don't know. Just like floodgate monsters. So we're gonna put that off to the side as well. Stegosaber, which is a interesting card, but I don't think it's going to come out. We might play it in our initial build, but I don't think so as well. Trifortesops, I'm not just exactly sure how to pronounce that. Unfortunately, this is a machine, but it's has a similar trigger to Nibiru. So during either player's turn, if your opponent summoned 3 or more times this turn, you can special it, and it's unaffected by everything. So it's going to be kind of hard for our opponent to out a 2800 wall that's just unaffected. They have to battle over it. Honestly, in modern Yu-Gi-Oh, this is pretty hard, or not pretty hard, pretty easy to out. So I'm definitely going to put it off to the side because it is an option as well, since we aren't working with a lot of cards here. So we're going to just have to pick what we think is the best. So let's go the rest of this. Rescue Rabbit is a really cool card. Being able to summon our copies of Sabersaurus or Megalosmasher from the deck, so I think we're probably going to be playing that for the first couple of episodes. Fossil Dig, really nice card, searches, it's a non-once return Rhoda. Big Evolution Pill, which really sucks. We're gonna have to just get rid of that pretty much. Twin Twisters, worst case scenario, this is probably going to go in our side deck, so I'm going to put this... In fact, this is actually a super useful card, so I'm going to put it off. Burial from a Different Dimension also might go in the side deck, just in case our opponent is playing some sort of banishing deck, I guess. Could come in handy for the first couple of episodes. Swords of Concealing Light. This is also something that we can put in the side deck. This is basically forcing outs, because you could just flip everything and your opponent is forced to negate this, otherwise everything goes face down. You're free to play, and then you can just conduct a run over everything, so that is pretty good. Painful Decision. This is a really cool card. I don't think we're going to use it, but I actually really like this card. This has one of my favorite artworks of all time. There's so many colors going on, and it is just fantastic. I just love the artwork of this card, so I am going to put it off to the side, but I don't think that we're going to use it. Unexpected Die is really nice, since this is a starter, or essentially kind of a starter, since you can get a dino on the field without a normal summon, which is really cool. Terraforming, obviously this is limited, but we are still going to play it. Survival of the Fittest pretty much sucks. Same thing with Fossil Excavation. Pretty much all these cards, these are like random token generating cards, which, I mean, help with your Lost Worlds, but other than that, they kind of suck. A copy of Quaking Mirror Force, which I think we're actually going to run for the first copy, or first iterations of this deck, just because it is an option, a good trap card for the most part. Grand Horde of Heaven, which is also pretty much like a Solemn, and I think this actually might be pretty good this format, since you could just negate a summon and then they basically get a turn skip, because they have to go into their battle phase, so they can't attack over your stuff, and they kind of just have to pass their turn. So I think Grand Horde of Heaven might actually be really solid, even though it does give them an advantage. Secret Blast is a burn card, which we might put off to the side just because it is cool. It's useful, but not very useful in this type of strategy, I guess. And for the last card, we have a Jurassic token. And the rest of this is the Beginner's Guide and the Eternity Code, like, promo card. And something really interesting about these is that they actually have the Yu-Gi-Oh card backing on them. So I guess you can use these as tokens if you wanted. I mean, I guess there was nothing stopping you previously from using them as tokens, but it's just so weird to see these as like actual cards. I don't know how else to explain this, but yeah, it's just really weird. So maybe we can like use these for something some other time. I think these are like kind of cool, but yeah, so these cards pretty much useless, so we're going to put those off to the side. And I'm going to go ahead and build ourselves a little version of this deck. and we're going to be right back. Alright, we're back, and I have built an entire 40 card main deck for my dinosaur list, as well as a 15 card side deck, which we will get into in a little bit. And obviously this is I think about as optimized I can get for just 3 structure decks and nothing else. So we're gonna go ahead and get right into it, and I'm gonna go ahead and explain everything, because hopefully this is going to be a guide for beginners, essentially, is what I'm planning on doing. So we're gonna start off by showcasing the 3 copies of Soul Eating Ovirap. So this is the main starter of the deck. So I'm gonna go ahead and explain every card in this deck. So when this card is normal or special summoned, you can take a dinosaur from your deck, either send it to the graveyard or add it to your hand. Also, you can target a, I believe, a level 4 lower dinosaur monster on the field and destroy it. Then you can summon a dinosaur monster from your graveyard in defense mode. So it's really cool. It also can destroy anything on the field, which is really nice, since you can target cards your opponent controls if they happen to control a dinosaur, which is going to be important when I show you Lost World. 3 copies of Miscellaneous Source, so this is basically the hand trap card. So basically, during either player's turn, during either player's main phase specifically, you can discard it, and then all of the dinos that you control are unaffected by your opponent's card effects for that phase. You can banish this card from the graveyard alongside any amount of dinosaurs, and then you summon a dinosaur from your deck equal to the level of dinosaurs you banished. For example, if you banish a singular copy of Miscellaneous Source for its own effect, then you summon 1 level 1 dinosaur type monster from your deck. If you banish 2 copies of a dinosaur, or 2 dinos from your graveyard, including itself, you can summon a level 2, 3, you can summon a level 3, and so on. This card is absolutely insane. So 3 copies of Ultimate Conductor Tyranno, cannot be normal summoned or set, must be special summoned by banishing 2 dinosaur type monsters from your graveyard. So you can just put them down on the field pretty easily just by banishing 2 dinos. During either player's turn, you can go ahead, I believe it's actually during the main phase specifically, you can go ahead and destroy a monster in your hand or your field, and then you can flip all monsters your opponent controls face down. He can attack everything your opponent controls once each, so you can just smack everything. If it attacks a defense position monster, inflict 1,000 damage to your opponent, and then it goes to the graveyard. So it doesn't trigger flip effects, which is really nice, because I believe flip effects are not at the start of damage step. I don't remember exactly where they flip, but it won't flip the card specifically, which is really nice as well. 3 copies of Babysaur Source. This card is very important because obviously you can pop it with Oviraptor and special summon a dinosaur from your deck. Tyranno Infinity. I'm just playing 1 copy just to try it out. So it says the original attack of this card is the amount of dinosaur monsters that are banished times 1,000. So if you have 4 dinos banished, this becomes 4,000 attack. Next, we have 3 copies of our Rescue Rabbit, and this becomes 2 copies of a normal dinosaur monster in our deck. And we are playing some targets for that. We are playing 3 copies of Megalosmasher as well as 3 copies of Sabersaurus. So the reason that we're playing these is because it synergizes well with Survival's End, which I will get to in a moment as well. But during the end phase, these cards do get destroyed, and we are not on an extra deck yet, but I still think that this is still important, and I'll show you why in a second. So, Lost World. So this card has a ton of effects. If you want to go ahead and read that, you can. We can read along it together. So basically, all non-dinos lose 500 attack and defense, and then if a dinosaur type monster is normal or special summoned to your field, I guess it doesn't have to be specifically to your field, it can be your opponent's field. You can go ahead and special summon a Jurassic token to your opponent's field in defense mode. and then it has a level 1. It's a level 1 with 0 attack, 0 defense, and then while your opponent controls a token, they cannot target monsters on the field for card effects except for tokens. And then once per turn, if a normal monster is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can destroy that many dinosaur type monsters from your hand or deck instead. So this is extremely important because all tokens count as normal monsters. They are specifically all normal monsters. So it's really good just because you give them a token, it is a normal monster, you try to kill the token, you can destroy a dinosaur from your deck instead, which would be your baby Ceratosaurus, which triggers its effect to special summon a dinosaur type monster from your deck. So if you can already see the combos in this deck, it is very, very good. Next we have a copy of Terraforming to search for the Lost World, as well as 3 copies of Fossil Dig to search for the Oviraptor or Miscellaneousaurus, or basically anything in our deck except for Conductor Tyranno. Next we have 2 copies of Unexpected Die. This is really good just because it is a non-normal summon way to get a dinosaur monster on the field. So we can just pop a dino out basically for free. I'm only on 2 because if you draw 3 of them, or like 2 of them in your hand, you can't use it because you have to control no monsters to activate the effect. It's not very good late game, so that's why I'm on only just the 2 copies. For our the rest of our deck, we have 3 copies of Survival's End, which is insane. So if you don't know what this card does, it destroys as many normal monsters on the field as possible. And then you can special summon dinosaur type monsters from your deck equal to the amount, or sorry, up to the amount of monsters destroyed, and then you destroy them during the end phase. So this is insane, specifically also because of its other effect, but you can also use this to destroy your opponent's tokens, and I know this format is very token reliant, so destroying their tokens to get yourself dinos is insane value. Also, you can banish it from the graveyard and target a dinosaur monster on your field and 1 card your opponent controls and destroy them. So this is really good removal as well, just being able to destroy anything on the field, and it's I'll show you a combo with that as well later. So 3 copies of Quaking Mirror Force, so when your opponent declares an attack, you can change all attack position monsters on the field to defense position, face down defense position. Unfortunately, in Link era, this doesn't really have as many uses as I would like it to, but I still think that it is a viable option for us to play in this deck for right now. Next, we have 3 copies of Grand Horn of Heaven, just because this can essentially end our opponent's turn, just by, or at least their main phase, so they won't be able to kill us that turn at all. It does give them a little bit of advantage, but this deck isn't really caring too much about advantage because it's trying to kill your opponent as fast as possible. So let's go ahead and get into a couple of combos that I can just think of off the top of my head. Alright, so the first combo is you can go ahead and start off by activating your Lost World and then normal summoning your Oviraptor to your field. Then you can go ahead and order your Chain Links here. So you can go ahead and order Oviraptor's Chain Link 1 and Lost World is Chain Link 2 to play around Ash. That way they can't Ash the Lost World, and then you can go ahead and special token your opponent's field and grab a Miscellaneousaurus from your deck. Next, you can use Miscellaneousaurus' effect in your hand to discard it, and then all of your dinos are unaffected for the rest of the turn. Next, you can use Oviraptor's effect, targeting the level 4 or lower dinosaur type monster on the field to special summon a monster from your graveyard. So, what's going to happen here is you can go ahead and use your Lost World to protect your token, or you can obviously just let it resolve and summon back your Miscellaneousaurus by killing the token. I think it is better to do it this way, where you can go ahead and use your Lost World to protect the token, and then you can go ahead and send a copy of Baby Ceratosaurus from your deck to the graveyard. Next, you can use Baby Ceratosaurus' effect to go ahead and special summon a dinosaur type monster from your deck, a level 4 or lower one as well. So it's really nice because then you can go ahead and, if you want, you can grab a second copy of Miscellaneousaurus. Depending on the rest of your hand, you kind of depends on what you want to grab here. Sometimes it might be better to grab a Megalosmasher Smasher or Sabersaurus, but in this case, I think it is better to possibly grab the Miscellaneousaurus here. Then you have 2 monsters on the field, so in future, we can go ahead and overlay these, or link them off, or do whatever, and we can have a lot of plays here. So I think this is very important to know to start, at least generates advantage for now, and yeah, I think it is a very good play to start off with. Our second combo is with any normal monster as well as Survival's End. So an interesting thing about this is you're not going to be doing a lot of the plays with this on your turn. So you're going to go ahead and normal summon your Sabersaurus and set a card face down. Obviously that's going to be your Survival's End. Then during your opponent's turn, you can use your Survival's End to destroy your Sabersaurus. And then you can go ahead and grab your Baby Ceratosaurus from your deck and special summon it to the field in defense mode. Then your Survival's End is going to resolve and go to the graveyard. And then during your opponent's turn, you do have a pop on their turn with the Survival's End, since you can banish it, target your Baby Ceratosaurus and a card on their field and destroy them. And then you can use your Baby Ceratosaurus' effect to go ahead and special summon a copy of Oviraptor from your deck. Then, since your Oviraptor was special summoned, you can go ahead and grab a dinosaur-type monster from your deck for the next turn. So you can grab an Oviraptor for the next turn. If you're playing a little bit reckless, you could grab a copy of Baby Ceratosaurus, because this could be good on the next turn, because you can normal summon it, then use your Oviraptor to destroy it and bring back a dino from the graveyard. Then you can use your Baby Ceratosaurus' effect to grab one from the deck, but that is a little bit more risky. I think the safer play is obviously to just go ahead and add your Oviraptor. You can also go ahead and add a Conductor Tyranno for the next turn, just because you already have the 2 dinosaurs in the graveyard, being the Baby Ceratosaurus and the Sabersaurus, so you can banish those for your Conductor on your next turn as well. So there is a lot of flexibility and options with this little combo, I guess it is, so I think that is really cool as well. The last and final combo that I do want to go over is a copy of Rescue Rabbit as well as a copy of Lost World. So you go ahead and activate your Lost World. Actually, the order of this doesn't really matter. You can normal summon your rabbit, then activate Lost World, doesn't really matter. Then you can go ahead and use your Lost World's effect, or sorry, your Rescue Rabbit's effect, to go ahead and special summon 2 copies of the same dinosaur type monster from your deck. So most likely you're just going to be summoning your Megalosmasher X. Then you can go ahead and move into your end phase, and these would be destroyed because of Rescue Rabbit's effect. He does say at the bottom that they are destroyed during the end phase, so technically these would be destroyed right now, but Lost World can protect them, and we can destroy that many dinosaur type monsters from our deck instead. So if you're playing really rough, you can actually just go ahead and go into 2 copies of your Baby Ceratosaurus, and this will get you set up really hard into the next turn, because you can go ahead and get rid of those. And then you can search for your copy, or special summon a copy of Oviraptor from your deck, as well as a copy of Miscellaneousaurus. That way, if both of these cards end up dying as well during your opponent's turn, you can in fact probably summon these in defense mode. Then, when these die, you can go ahead, or sorry, you get to search off of your Oviraptor, obviously, so you can search for like Conductor Tyranno. And then obviously if these cards die, you're going to have a lot of dinosaurs in your graveyard, especially with like your Miscellaneousaurus. So with having this in the graveyard with 4 other dinos, you can banish this and special summon an Oviraptor on your opponent's or on your next turn. And you do have a huge follow-up with your Conductor Tyranno as well. So I think these are some generic combos that I think are going to be very, very important to know for the first couple stages of this journey. Alright, so this is the deck list put into Duel Link Book. So if you've noticed, there are a few changes that I made because I did take this to my locals. So most notably, I did take the Quaking Mirror Force out of the, or at least 2 copies out of the main deck, because a lot of people are on Link monsters, so this obviously does nothing against them. So this card's just kind of decent. Also, I put in a Superconductor Tyranno as well as a Petite Pteranodon, just because I wanted more targets to be destroyed with Lost World. And sometimes I was noticing that I had a lot of monsters on the field, especially if I did the Rescue Rabbit Lost World combo. I put a lot of monsters on the field, so Superconductor Tyranno is, I think, a really good option here. Even though it's a pretty terrible card otherwise, you can still sack 2 and then summon it on the field. Also, Super Ancient Dino Beast is also another option, because you can tribute 2 to summon it. It also has an effect that you can tribute 1 monster to summon it as well. So that is really cool. I switched Swords of Concealing Light, which was initially in my side deck, into the main deck. And I think that's about it, honestly. And for the side deck, I put in 2 copies of Tyranno Infinity, 3 Trifortis Tops, 3 Burial from a Different Dimension, 3 Twin Twisters, the 2 Quaking, 1 Super Ancient Dino Beast, and a Petite Pteranodon. With all of that said, let's get into some matches. Alright, so for game number 1, we roll to see who goes first, and I roll a 5 and she rolls a 3, so that means I get to choose who gets to go first. I choose to go first. I unfortunately brick, set 2 cards, and pass my turn. She starts off with a copy of Lonefire Blossom tributing itself to summon a copy of Rika Petal from the deck. Then she can tribute the Rika Petal to special summon a copy of Snowdrop as well as a Mudan. And this Mudan is going to search for a copy of Rika Sheet, and she's going to set that card face down. Then she's going to use Snowdrop's effect, targeting herself, making everything level 8 and overlaying into a copy of Alcai. Then she's going to use Alcai's effect to declare the top card of her deck, which is going to be Nibiru. Unfortunately, she didn't get it. Milling the Evil Thorn, then detaching for the second effect of Alcai, putting the Mudan in the graveyard and putting the card that she targeted on the bottom of my deck. Then she's going to declare an attack with Alcai, which is going to get hit with a Quaking Mirror Force, putting this Alcai down face down permanently, and then she's going to go ahead and pass her turn. I go ahead and draw for turn. I draw into another copy of Survival's End, so I just go ahead and set that and pass my turn. Then in the end phase, she uses Rika Petal's effect to special summon itself back to the field. Then she's going to activate a copy of Outstart Goblin to draw a card, then use Rika Petal to search for a Snowdrop, then use the Snowdrop to tribute the Alcai and special itself, and a copy of Erica from the hand. Then she's going to go ahead and use the Snowdrop's effect, making everything level 8, overlaying into a copy of Teardrop. Then she's going to attack for 24 and 28 and pass her turn. For my turn, I activate a copy of Swords of Concealing Light to set all of her monsters face down for a couple of turns, and then I go ahead and pass my turn. She draws into a copy of Evil Thorn, uses the effect to burn me for 300 and special a copy of Evil Thorn since the other one is in her graveyard. Then she uses the effect of Snowdrop in her hand, tributing the Teardrop to special summon itself and a Hellbore from the hand, and then she can just attack for game here because everything is bigger than 3,500. Then moving into game number 2, I go ahead and start off with a copy of Fossil Dig to search for Oviraptor, and then Oviraptor is going to search me for a copy of Miscellaneousaurus, so that way, since I have a Conductor in hand, if my Oviraptor dies and my Miscellaneousaurus, I can just discard, and then I have 2 dinos in graveyard to get a Conductor. She starts off with the Pot of Extravagance, banishing 6 cards out of her extra deck face down, and then a copy of Upstart Goblin to draw another card. Then she uses Dark Hole. I could chain the Miscellaneousaurus here, but I do want the extra dino in graveyard. Then she passes her turn. I go ahead and use Oviraptor to search for a Baby Ceratosaurus, which I should have searched for a Miscellaneousaurus. Use Miscellaneousaurus' effect to send it to the graveyard. Then I banish 2 dinos out of my graveyard and summon a copy of Conductor. Then I attack with my Oviraptor for 18 and my Conductor for 3,500, leaving her with just 2,700 life points. On her turn, she uses a copy of Extravagance, banishing 3, drawing 1 instead of 6, and then uses a Feather Duster to get rid of my last back row. Then she goes ahead and activates Raigeki to destroy my cards here as well. I was a little bit greedy. I should have searched for a Miscellaneousaurus instead of that Baby Ceratosaurus so that I could have protected my dinos. But then she uses a Rika Glamour to go ahead and add Rika Petal, then uses Petal's effect to go ahead and search for a copy of Snowdrop. Snowdrop's effect is going to summon herself and a copy of Mudan, and then she's going to set a card face down. Use Snowdrop's effect to make everything level 8 and overlay into a copy of Teardrop and attack for 2,800. On my turn, I activate a copy of Fossil Dig to search for Oviraptor, and then I normal summon the Oviraptor, and that's going to get hit with an effect failure. Then I go ahead and banish 2 dinos out of my graveyard to summon a second copy of Conductor Tyranno from my hand. Then she's going to go ahead and use Teardrop's effect to detach material targeting my Conductor Tyranno to tribute it, and then I can chain Conductor's effect to destroy my Oviraptor, and then my her Teardrop will be set face down, and my Conductor is going to be tributed. On her turn, she flip summons the Teardrop and then normal summons an Evil Thorn, tributes it to inflict 300 damage and summon 2 more copies from her deck, then links those 2 copies into a copy of Jasmine and declares an attack with it. Then I can use Triforceratops because she summoned 3 times, I can special summon it, and it's 3,000 or 2,800 defense. Teardrop's 3,000, so it's going to attack over, and then she's going to pass her turn. On my turn, I'm going to set a monster face down and go ahead and pass my turn. Then she's going to go ahead and normal summon a Rika Petal, use the effect to search for a Snowdrop, and then Snowdrop's going to tribute the Petal, special summoning itself and the Hellbore from hand. Then she's going to overlay for a copy of Alcai and use Alcai's effect, declaring Nibiru, sending Mudan to the graveyard, then detaching material, targeting my face down, and sending it to the bottom of my deck. Then at that point, unfortunately, my field is going to be wide open, so then she's going to go ahead and declare an attack with Alcai for 2,300, and then she's going to attack with Jasmine for 1,800 and Teardrop for game. So unfortunately, we lose this one. I could have played a little smarter, but that's kind of the point of the series, to learn and grow. For our next match, I headed over to Dueling Book Rated, and we just hopped right into the ladder, and it looks like I won the die roll, and I'm going to opt to go first, starting with a Lost World and use the Oviraptor. Ovi Chainlink 1, Lost World Chainlink 2, giving my opponent a token and searching for a Miscellaneousaurus. I'm going to ditch Miscellaneousaurus for its effect, then use Oviraptor to pop the token, Lost World to protect, sending Baby, and special summoning Megalo Smasher. It looks like my opponent is on Orcus, so he goes ahead and starts off with a Orcus Mech Knight, and then uses the Danger Sukanoko in his hand to special summon itself from the hand, and he's going to discard the Ash and then make a Link Rebo and climbing into a copy of Rusty Bardiche, and then he's going to special the Boots out of his hand and then use the Nightmare to send Wand, and then Wand's going to special Wand, and then Wand's effect's going to special back the Orcus Nightmare. Reborn summons back Galatea and overlays a Dingirsu on top, and then he's going to use Dingirsu and Rusty to pop my Megalo Smasher and my Lost World, and then he's going to link off into a Verte Anaconda and then make Dragoon. So at this point, unfortunately, the Dragoon's going to pop, taking 1,800. Rusty attacks for 21, and then I think it's actually at a little more just because of the Orcus Nightmare, but in either case, it's enough damage for game. So moving into game number 2, it looks like I'm going to be opting to go first again, and it looks like my hand is unfortunately a bit of a brick, so all I really can do is activate Unexpected Die, Special Summon Megalo Smasher, and pass my turn. So then he draws for turn and goes ahead and normal summons Gearsue the Orcus Mekk-Knight, sending Orcus Nightmare to the graveyard and giving us both a token. He can then link that token into a Linkuriboh and then into a Galatea, and then he's going to use Orcus Nightmare to send Wonder Wand to the grave. Wonder Wand's going to special summon itself, or special summon the Orcus Nightmare back, and then Galatea is going to send back the World Wand, and then the Babel is going to be set to the field. He's going to summon the copy of Dingirsu and then send my Megalo Smasher. Copy of Bigfoot hits the field, and then he's going to link that off into a Rusty Bardige, sending the Silent Boots and setting a Fog Blade, and then he's going to go ahead and set a second Fog Blade, I believe, and set 2 more back row and pass his turn. So then on my turn, he goes ahead and uses the effect of Symbol Skeleton in the graveyard to send Dingirsu, and then he's going to rank up into Calamities. Fortunately for me, I have 2 dinosaurs in the graveyard since I banished the Miscellaneousaurus, and I make Conductor. However, Calamities also prevents you from attacking, and so that is going to effectively end the game there. Moving into our second rated match, I unfortunately lose the die roll, but he is going to be opting to go first, and so that's going to put me to go second, and he starts off with a copy of Salamangreat Circle to search for Gazelle, and then he's going to use Foxy to to add the Spinny from the top of his deck to his hand, and then he's going to go ahead and link off this Foxy into a copy of Balinx, and then use Balinx and Gazelle to go ahead and search for Sanctuary, as well as Gazelle's effect to send a copy of Fusion of Fire to the graveyard, and then he's going to link off into a Salamangreat Sunlight Wolf, link off the Sunlight Wolf, and then use Sunlight Wolf's effect to get into a Fusion of Fire. Then on my turn, I'm going to use Fossil Dig, which gets hit with an Ash. I'm going to normal summon Megalo Smasher and attack over. He unfortunately uses the Balinx Protect. I pass my turn. He starts off with a normal summon of Spinny, and then he's going to use the effect to add back Ash to the hand, and then he's going to link off into a copy of Heat Leo. I'm going to hit him with a Grand Horn of Heaven, moving him into main phase 2, and then I'm going to go ahead and unfortunately here it's a little bit confusing, but I did use the copy of Survival's End to pop the Megalo Smasher, special summoning itself, and then it will destroy the copy of Will of the Salamangreat, so he does not get the summon off of Gazelle, and then he's going to Ash my baby. Then I'm going to use Terraforming to search for a copy of Lost World, and the Lost World's going to be triggered here when I normal summon Baby Ceratosaurus, and I'm going to attack into this token, and then use Lost World's effect to protect, and then I'm going to send a copy of Baby Ceratosaurus to the graveyard to get a copy of Oviraptor, and then I'm going to go ahead and he's going to hit me with a Mystic Mine, and Oviraptor is going to resolve to search for the Conductor Tyranno since it was still in the chain, and then I'm going to pass the turn. He asks if he can link it off, but unfortunately the Dino token is not a Cyberse type, so I'm going to just basically pass the turn here. We're just going to keep passing back and forth, and I'm going to continuously use Lost World effect to give him more tokens, and then he's going to use the copy of Will the Salamangreat to bring back a Heat Leo, destroying his Mystic Mine, so we're no longer under the lock. So then I'm going to use Conductor to attack over the Heat Leo, attack all of the tokens for 3,000 damage total. And then I should be able to attack for game here with the copy of Oviraptor, Megalo Smasher, and a second Oviraptor. Then moving on into game number 2, it looks like he is going to be opting to go first yet again. And then he is going to start with a copy of Cynet Mining to search for a copy of Foxy. And then he's going to use this Foxy to... looks like he actually whiffs, unfortunately, on his end, but fortunately for me, that is exactly what I prefer. He's going to link off into Balinx and also use Gazelle in his hand and the effect of Exceed. However, you can only activate 1 card in your hand per chain link, so 1 trigger effect in your hand, if I said that correctly. So he has to pick between them, so he's going to use the Gazelle, and then he's going to link off into a Sunlight Wolf, and then use Exceed, searching the Gazelle back from the graveyard, special summoning an Exceed, and making Baguska on my turn. Then he's going to go ahead and reincarnate the Sunlight Wolf, and then he's going to add back Rage and set 2 back row and pass his turn. So I start off with a Twin Twister, and this is a very cool play on my part. This is a so I'm going to normal summon Oviraptor and attempt to use the effect, even though it would be negated by Baguska. And in the same chain, I use Survival's End to pop the Baguska, destroying the Oviraptor. And so that is a very interesting way to get around Baguska, because Baguska is no longer face up on the field, so its effect will not trigger. He unfortunately leaves. I call a judge and everything. We explain everything to him, and he just says, wow, this is really dumb, and he leaves the game. For the next 2 matches, I asked some friends in Discord if they wanted to play. So up first we have Goofy Ghost, and he is on Subterra Numeron. So I start off with the Fossil Deck search for Miscellaneousaurus, and then use my copy of Oviraptor to search for Conductor Tyranno. And then he goes ahead and just sets 4 back row and passes his turn, or I guess 3 back row on a set card. And he hits me with There Can Be Only One, and it's pretty rough, so I have to send this Oviraptor to the graveyard, and then he goes ahead and starts his turn with Hidden City, setting Guru, and then using the effect of Hidden City, flipping it, adding Archer. And I'm going to use this copy of Megalos Smasher to attack 400 over, and then I am just going to go ahead and pass my turn since I can't summon under Tikaboo, and then he's going to go ahead and set another Guru, flip it, and add another Archer. And then I'm going to go ahead and just keep trying to poke in with Megalos Smasher, but he's just going to keep getting searches for Fiendus, and he's going to go ahead and use the effect of like Hidden City just to keep flipping everything down. He attempts to Solemn Judgment my Lost World, but Lost World doesn't activate, and even if it did, it would be using an effect, plus Solemn Judgment can only negate activation, it can't negate effects. So yeah, then I banish 4 for Miss, and he ashes it, and then yeah, so he doesn't actually, he negates with Fiendus, but we keep passing back and forth. I can't really get over this Tikaboo, and he just has lots of recovery with cards like Solemn Judgment and stuff like that, and at this point he has a lot of cards. I can go ahead and banish and see if I can get a Pteranodon, which searches me Oviraptor to get this Tyranno Infinity, since I have a lot of dinos banished. Lost World's going to give him a token, and I cleared this Tikaboo with the Survival's End earlier, so I can just kind of wait and hopefully flip everything face down like I did here with Conductor Tyranno, and then I can go ahead and swing into the token, use Lost World to get a baby, use baby or OV to add Conductor, and then from there I can just use my Conductor to attack for 5,000 damage. So that's game number 1. Moving into game number 2, he opts to go first, so he's going to normal summon Guru since he has this Fiendus, and he's going to, it looks like, Solemn Judgment my Twin Twisters since he has a Tikaboo set, so he's playing into it very safely. Survival Sand is going to pop his face down Guru so that I get, and then my baby is going to get a special for Oviraptor. He hits me with the Tikaboo there, so I can't really summon again, but I can just keep poking with this copy of Oviraptor. And then, yeah, so he attempts to use Numeron Network, but he can only summon 1 because he's under Tikaboo, so it gets banished in the end phase, and I just attack for game for the next turn. So, unfortunately, I think that he just had a pretty rough hand, so yeah, it's pretty rough. Moving into the second match, I'm playing against iPone, and he is playing the deck that we are playing, except it is more competitively viable. So this is, I guess, the idea of the deck at some point. So he's going to use an Extravagance to draw 2 cards, starting off with a Lost World to give me a token, and using this Oviraptor to search for baby. Miscellaneousaurus is going to use its effect, and then he's going to try to pop the token, send the Petite, special the Archosaur, and then he can just keep comboing from here into a copy of Pentestag. He does make a misplay with the Secure Gardener, but he can just send it back and link off with something else, and it's completely fine. Conductor Tyranno's going to swing over all of my monsters. Pentestag is going to attack for a total of 16, and this Dolka for 18, which is really rough. I think I misspoke, but Pentestag was only for 11. But honestly, I didn't have enough. This continuous spell wasn't exactly enough. So moving into game number 2, he starts off with a Lost World. He just decides to pass his turn. I start off with a Rescue Rebel, which gets hit with an Ash, and he goes with a Lost World and attacks over my token. I hit him with a Quaking, and I just can't really draw too many good cards here, so I just keep going through it. He uses the Lost World to protect his token, makes the Phoenix, and then he goes ahead and I Grand Horn it, so he draws a card. And then I Grand Horn him again on his next turn for this Conductor Tyranno, and his Rex goes back in the battle phase and he attacks, but I hit him with the Quaking. And then on my turn, I give him a token, I attack with Miss, and then I use Baby to special Ovi, and then Ovi sends Megalos Smasher, and he gets hit with a DD Crow there. And then he goes ahead and on his turn uses Ovi to add the Conductor Tyranno, and at this point he can just swing over my monsters, so this is a lot of damage here. And so I will be taking quite a lot of damage, leaving me with just 2,600 life points. And then the Oviraptor is going to attack for 18, so I'm at 800. Then he's going to go ahead and on my turn, I'm going to use Conductor Tyranno, but he's just going to flip his, and then I can chain to flip mine. But at that point, at his next turn, he can just flip it back and attack for game. So it's not going to matter either way. That's going to do it for today's episode. We played 5 matches today, and we won 2 of them, which is honestly a pretty good start, and I'm very excited for next episode. And if you are too, go ahead and subscribe. I'll hopefully be posting these weekly, and if you have any other tips for this series, do let me know in the comment section below. With all that said, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.